Oh. Oh. Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gururdevo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Satchidanandarupaya विश्वोत्पत्त्यादिहेतवे तापत्रयविनाशाय श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नुमः श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नुमः ॐ योऽन्तः प्रविश्य मम वाचमिमां प्रसुप्तां सञ्जीवयत्यखिलशक्तिधरस्वधाम्नाम् अन्याश्च हस्तचरणश्रवणत्वगादीन् प्राणान् नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यं प्राणान् नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यं प्राणान् नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यं. We are in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 21, verse number 16 onwards, I think. So I think we have to chant the 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th verse. So we'll take it from there. And the topic is the process of determining what is good and what is evil, and the secret underlying it. So we saw that some things are pure, other things are impure. If you add the pure into the impure, it becomes pure. Something is pure today, that same thing will become impure tomorrow, and that which is impure today becomes pure tomorrow. Like this, so many different ways the topic is being taken, and the purpose of it will tell you. Right now, get confused. Month 15th verse. Mantrasya cha parigyanam karma shuddhirmadarpanam dharma sampadyate षड्भिः अधर्मस्तु विपर्ययः क्वचिद् गुणोऽपि दोषस्यात् दोषोऽपि विधिना गुणः गुणदोषार्थः नियमः तद्भिदामेव बाधते समानकर्माचरणं पतितानां च पातकम् औत्पत्तिको गुणः संगो न शयानः पतत्यदः यतो यतो निवर्तेत विमुच्येत ततस्ततः एष धर्मो नृणां क्षेमः शोकमोहभयापहः. So, in the 15th verse, he says that the purity of a mantra is brought about by learning it from a qualified person. And who is a qualified person from whom you can take a mantra? Not every Tom, Dick, and Harry. Not every person whose name is a Swami or whose cloth is a ochre color. No. Anyone knows? Anyone knows from whom the mantra should be taken? I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I can't hear you, whoever is answering. Maybe you're too far away from the speaker. I can't hear you clearly.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Bolo. Mahatma Ji bole, the one who chants his mantra from the para. See, so Vaikhari is from the loud chanting, Vaikhari, Madhyama is the throat chanting, Pashyanti is the heart chanting, even Pashyanti is also okay. Heart chanting, and the para is which is beyond the navel chanting. So he who is established in the paravani, from such a mantra, from such a person only the mantra should be taken. How do you know that he is established in the mantra, in the paravani? Because such a person, whenever he says something, it happens. So, because only those people who have gone to the source of the word, which is para, or beyond the word, only their words come true. When they say something, it happens. So, the purity of a mantra is brought about by learning it from a qualified person, and the purity of act lies in dedicating it to me. And when you have taken the mantra and when you are chanting it, you dedicate the activity of chanting the mantra, you dedicate the speech, which is an activity, to the Lord, and every activity must give a result, isn't it? So, whatever the result, we don't know what it is, that also take it as prasad of the Lord, and therefore that is the attitude that one must maintain while chanting the mantra, dedicating it to me. Religious merit is acquired through the purity of the aforesaid factors: place, time, sustenance, agent, sacred formula, righteous act enumerated in the foregoing verses, while the reverse, their impurity, makes for unrighteousness. So, yes, in the world, who decides for us what is, we have already covered this topic, I am not going to go into detail. Who decides for us what is, how we should live our life? The do's and don'ts, the pure and the impure, the righteous and the unrighteous, the dharmic and the adharmic, shuddh and ashuddh. Who decides it for us? The Shastras decide it for us, the scriptures decide it for us. So, you may say that your parents have told you, it is in your family, but they also, somewhere they must have heard it from some Mahatma, from some Pandit, from some Shastri, and that Shastri, Pandit, etc., Mahatma, they must have come to know from the scriptures. So it keeps passing on. That is how it is in every family. And when something gets passed on in the family, some things are original and some things are superstitions also. So that must be taken with a pinch of salt. So here he says that all those things, the scriptures themselves are telling us what is righteous and what is not, what is a good place and what is not a good place, what is a good time and what is not a good time, what is pure and what is impure, what types of substances should be taken and what should not be taken, what agent, to whom should you offer all these, and what mantras you should be chanting, and all these things are told for whom? Are they being told for the realized person? No. Are they being told to the God? No. Then to whom are these injunctions, the do's and don'ts? To that person who considers that he is only one teeny weeny bit part of this world, who feels that he is this body, who feels that this world is a big maze, that this world was there before he came and this world will continue after he goes away. So this particular person who's thinking in this manner, that family is all that there is, karma is all that there is, possessions is all that there is in the game of life, and all this is on account of body identification. So for such a person, so that he or she lives a disciplined life, And as he starts living a disciplined life, his mind starts purifying. And when his mind starts purifying, then he starts questioning what he is studying. See, the idea of the scriptures is only one. The purpose of the scripture is only one. It is not to keep you entangled in the world. It is to help you, me, everyone on this in this creation. Whoever has faith in the scriptures, and when we say scriptures, it's the Vedas, not anything else. Who has faith in the scriptures and in the system enumerated in the scriptures, the purpose of the scriptures is only one, for you to realize that you are the infinite one. You are not this limited one who gets afraid if he loses a job, who gets excited if he gets a job, who falls in love. See? So it is continuously the scriptures are prodding us, tickling us, coming in front of us in our life to remind us, not to tease us, not to take the mickey out of us. अच्छा परेशान हो रहा है, चलो मैं तुम्हें और परेशान करता हूँ. इसके लिए नहीं आए स्क्रिप्चर्स अपने जीवन में. They have come to remind us कि बाबा, you are looking for happiness in the wrong areas, because you are of the nature of happiness. Go back to your source. But you listen, what I just said, you listen, but very next moment, again you are thinking, what is he going to tell next? Which means your attention has again gone outside. No amount of interaction with the outside world is ever going to bring the tranquility, the peace, the contentment that we are seeking. And scriptures give us so many rules and regulations, do's and don'ts, so that you get tired of that discipline. Because they have said, oh, if you don't follow this, you will go to hell. Now, if you believe, it's a figment of imagination. Who knows who has gone to hell and who has gone to heaven? I don't believe it. Then you are wasting your time. But if you believe that if you are doing wrong acts, and if you understand that every act must give a result, then if you are doing wrong acts, we'll go to hell. If you are doing good acts, we'll go to heaven. And if you remain equanimous, if you remain witness, then then you are transcending both, good and bad. You are going beyond heaven and hell. So purpose of the scriptures is to take us beyond all the opposites, to take us beyond the duality. And what is that which is beyond duality? The self, the Atma, or the Bhagavan. So religious merit is acquired through the purity of the aforesaid factors. We said that. And if you don't follow that, then impurity, and if you live an impure life, if you live an unrighteous life, and then you will have to face the consequences of that unrighteous life. We don't know what they are, but they are there. Then in the 16th verse, he says, Kvachit gunopi doshasya doshopi vidhina gunaha gunadoshartha niyamaha tad bhidame vacha badhate. He says that in some cases even a virtue turns out to be a fault, and vice versa in the light of a scriptural ordinance. In this way, the scriptural ordinance determining the goodness or otherwise of a particular object cuts at the root of the distinction of good and bad itself. So what is the root of good and bad? See? What is the root of good and bad? From where has it started? In your mind only, no? You only have given it the value that this is good and this is bad. So we are going to the source of good and bad and transcend that also. Good also comes out from the mind, bad also comes out of the mind, righteousness also comes out of the acts which are result of desires, then unrighteousness also from the mind, good convictions, bad convictions, good habits, bad habits, purity, impurity, everything is part of the mind only. And we are being, and all this is being told to us. Here it's saying in the 16th verse that to the cuts at the root of the distinction. So just like, what are the distinctions? That I don't know which role I must play. Should I play the role of a sannyasi, role of a brother, role of a son, role of a husband, role of a friend? Which one is more important? And these roles are taking me every time. Sometimes the the mother calls, sometimes the sister calls, sometimes the friend calls, sometimes the wife calls, sometimes the children call, and I'm getting pulled in all these directions. I don't know, oh my God. And when we are not able to handle it, it's called depression. We lose the plot of life. Why? We were living at the virtual level. So if you want to be not disturbed by these roles, then what you have to do? You have to come back to the one who, without whom these roles cannot express. And who is that? He is the man. So who is that one who is beyond all these distinctive roles? The man. Man is the common denominator behind all those roles, isn't it? So what is that common denominator behind all the distinctions? See, all the forms in the world, eyes are common. All the sounds in the world, ears are common. All the tastes in the world, tongue is common. So all the five senses, stimuli are many, but the organ of perception is one. Organs are many. See, the ears, eyes, nose, tongue, skin, they are many, but the mind is one. Thoughts are many, but the mind is one. Experiences many, but do you become many experiencers, or you are the same experiencer? I am the experiencer, so I is one. So in this exercise, what did we do? We are coming to the root of all the distinctions. And this is the purpose of our scriptures. But for that we have to be available. If a person is only out there for making merry and satisfaction of his at an extroverted level, and you tell him that we have to come to the root of all the of the world, he says, for what? Oh, so that you can be happy. He says, I am happy with interacting with everything in this world. I don't want all that. I am enjoying. Oh, sorry. I am enjoying myself. I don't need your advice. See? So it is only for those who are available. Available to change, available to grow further, available to that principle because of whom this whole drama is going on. The Jeev Jagat Ishwar drama is going on. So just like behind all the senses is the mind, behind all the thoughts is the I thought, without which other thoughts cannot express. Similarly, the Jeev Jagat Ishwar is also there. Who is behind Jeev Jagat Ishwar? Who is that unchanging what is that unchanging principle which alone is expressing as the jiva on one hand and the jagat on the other, and as the Ishvara, as the overseer? Who is that at the totality level? What is that principle which is expressing, just like I am expressing as the various roles? What is that common denominator or that divine principle or the higher principle which is expressing both as the micro and the macro, the samashti and the vyashti? Vyashti is microcosm, individual creation, and samashti is the macrocosm, the total creation. So what is that which is that one which is taking the role of totality and taking the role of individuality? Who is that? What is that? Where is that? See, to that principle, our scriptures are trying to shift our attention, and it needs to only click once. See? Then in the 17th verse he says, what does he say? Samana karma charanam patitanam cha napatakam hautpatti ko guna sango nashayana patatyadaha. In case of those already fallen in social rank or morals, the perpetration of an act similar to that which is sinful for others, not so fallen, is not further degrading. So, what is this? In case of those, we have lived at a lower level for a person who has killed many times, for example. For him, killing another person is just another day job. Because he's already fallen. A thief doesn't think that I should not steal, because there is no conscience. This is being told only to those who have conscience, those who know that this is a heinous act, who are looking around that these are good people, these are bad people, these are good acts and these are bad acts. And when they sometimes commit a bad act, they feel the pain within, that why am I behaving like this? Why am I expressing in this manner? See? Why am I manipulating others? Why am I being a part of the corruption? Why am I not compassionate? Why am I not empathetic? Why I had to become the reason to kill the spiders and the mosquitoes and the cockroaches? But if that feeling is not there, then just out of complete insensitivity, we just go and kill that form through which life is expressing, as if it does not mean anything, as if it's a mistake in this creation. How dare it come into your house? Prithvi Mata can also say, how dare you come and trample her? She will also spray some human spray. Bzzz, gone. Corona. Corona, earthquake. No. It is to wake us up. So this topic is being taken for those who are a bit of conscience, because those who are fallen are already fallen. Nothing can be done about it. And aren't we all in that we have a conscience? That's why we are sitting and listening. See? Yet our mind has not come under our control. Still, inadvertently, out of old habits, we continue to do certain acts in our life which are not correct. To such people, it is being told that correct yourself, man, because you know they are not correct. But you have got you've fallen into the trap of a repeated. It has become a default in your life now. Then it says, similarly, sexual intercourse with one's lawfully wedded wife during the days permitted by the Shastras, when already freed upon, is a virtue, although it is a sin in case of a recluse. For one who has taken, who has not entered the Grahastha ashram, for him it is a sin. For a Grahastha, he is considered a brahmachari. See how compassionate the scriptures are. He is considered a brahmachari if he comes together with his wife only in the times that is stipulated by the scriptures. Every month. Then it is okay. Then you are a brahmachari. You are allowed. Then it says, when always is a virtue, although it is a sin in the case of a recluse. For a person already lying on the ground has no chance of further fall. If a person has already fallen, then how more can he fall? He is already on the ground. If I have fallen in my own eyes, what more I can fall? Nobody else can make me fall because I have already fallen. You know, such people, they become insult proof. Someone who has a little bit of dignity, little bit of self-respect, someone says something, but you have become, अरे आ बैल मुझे मार, इधर से उधर से सब उसका मजाक उड़ाते हैं, सब उसको. This happens to Mahatmas also, but Mahatmas do not care about those people. But this person like us, we get hurt inside. Then there is if we feel hurt inside, then there is a possibility of growth. But इतने हम क्या कहते हैं, मूढ़ बुद्धि, we have become so stubborn in our wrong behavior that even if a soothsayer comes and tells us, guide us, we take him to be a fool because we think we know better. Because we think we have made our own life, we have become successful. And we have that same attitude when someone comes and tells something good for you, you take him to be a fool. Similarly, we take the scriptures also to be fools. See? Because we think that we are greater. That scriptures are just they are old, they have been written so many thousands of years ago. How can they be true in this today's time? Scriptures are inert, they are not living. I am living my life. For it is very easy for the scriptures to say this, but I am facing the conditions of life day in and day out. When this type of attitude is maintained, you are already on the ground, hopeless. Nobody can help. But if a little bit of conscience is there, that the lifestyle that I am leading, the attitudes that I am having are not conducive to my happiness, and some change, but I don't know where the change will come from, how it will come, what will it bring about. But becoming available is the first step. Being available is the first step. And once when one is available, then change is possible. And the change is from tamas to rajas, from rajas to sattva, and eventually transcending the sattva, rajas, tamas. Meaning transcending all the multiplicity or duality. in the last 18th verse it says, Yato yato nivarteta vimuchyeta tatastataha esha dharmo nunam kshemaha shoka moha bhayapaha. A man is rid of attachment for each of those objects and actions from which he desists. This righteous course in the shape of detachment is salutary for men, and dispels their grief, infatuation, and fear. So, what is that? Grief is dukkha, infatuation is the delusion, and fear is bhaya. These three. He will explain how it comes about. But these three have gripped our. So, we don't want to be sad, we don't want to be miserable, we don't want to be cribbing all the time. That I don't have this, I don't have that. So we go out there and make it happen, earn the wealth, turn the world upside down in order to earn the wealth, so that all those things that I had desired, now I can fulfill them. And delusion is about your own essential nature. You are of the nature of happiness, and you are searching happiness in the world of objects and relations. And therefore, fear comes. Because that which cannot be, which is continuously changing, and you have got no control to keep it continuously. You can't keep your age continuously. You can't keep your health continuously. You can't keep your whatever you possess, let it be a house, it will keep breaking down with every passing minute, every passing year. This is broken down, then the pipe is broken down. Even a new house, after it continuously requires taking care, because it's breaking down. A mountain is also breaking down. Everything that comes in creation, that is created in this creation, must break down. And we are trying to hold on to it with the hope that it will never change, that it will not break down, that it must remain the same, and that is not possible. Then the fear of death. Fear of losing what you have got attached to. Fear of losing what you have accumulated. Fear of losing with whom you have created relationships. Through infatuation, through so-called love. Through identification. And if our mind has not been overhauled within this life, when this body's time comes to go, and the mind is not prepared, he experiences grief, delusion, and fear. And that is what we are trying to avoid. But unknowingly, we are getting caught up in it deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. How does this come about? How does this grief, infatuation, and fear come about? Infatuation means what? Love is unconditional. Infatuation is conditional. Where your attention and your love, your feelings for a particular thing or a person are more than the measure required, then it becomes infatuation. And infatuation is not only for people, it can be for objects also. Clothes. So how does this come about? Now this part is given in our Bhagavad Gita also. In the second chapter. So here we'll read these 4 verses. Vishayeshu gunadhyasat punsa sangastato bhavet sanga tatra bhavet kamaha kamadeva kalirnunam kaler durvishah krodah तमस्तमनुवर्तते तमसाग्रस्यते पुंसः चेतना व्यापिनी द्रुतं तया विरहितः साधो जन्तुः शून्याय कल्पते ततोऽस्य स्वार्थविभ्रंशो मूर्छितस्य मृतस्य च विषयाभिनिवेशेन नात्मानं वेद नापरम् वृक्षजीविकया जीवन व्यर्थम भस्रेव यश्वसन. He says, विषयेषु गुणाध्यासात् पुंस संगस्ततो भवेत् संगा तत्र भवेत् कामः कामादेव कलिर्नृणाम्. From our misconceptions regarding the goodness, agreeability of an object, what is that misconception? What is the misconception? The misconception is that the bliss, the joy, the satisfaction is inherent within the object. That is the misconception. That this object, if I buy a new house, it will give me happiness. That if I buy a new car, it gives me happiness. If I buy a new watch, it gives me happiness. If I buy new clothes, it gives me happiness. If I get married, then I'll be happy. Then if I have kids, then I will be happy. See, we are outsourcing our happiness. That's the word. We are outsourcing our happiness. And where is happiness? Our nature. Atma is of the nature of Sat Chit Ananda. But we are outsourcing it. So here it says, from our misconception regarding the goodness, agreeability of an object, springs up attachment to it in a man. So whenever to any object or a person or a situation or an experience or whatever, we give a little bit extra attention, we become attached to it. See? We start liking it or we start disliking it. Liking can turn into infatuation later. Because extreme attachment, more than required attachment, that I cannot live without it. So, liking towards an object, when you start thinking about an object again and again and again, you develop. It's not you are making, it happens. It happens. So why not apply that habit? If this is true, that whatever object or person you think again and again and again, you will get attached to that object or person, then why not think about the Lord again and again and again? Why not take the name of the Lord again and again and again? Why not look at the picture of the Lord again and again and again, so that our mind gets attached to that, which is healthy? And why we don't do it? There is one reason. Because, oh, it is only a photograph, oh, it is only a statue. But this person, it is real, I can touch, I can feel. I can interact. Gulab Jamun I can eat and become one with it. Bhagwan, where is he? We are not convinced. But But that conviction will only come when you walk the path. From attachment follows the desire. When we like something, we look at something, we hear something, and we are interested in it, we get attached to it. That attachment wells up the desire within us that I must own that, I must get that, I must get married to that, I must have a child, etc., etc., etc. I must build up my health. I don't want to die sick. I don't want to be dependent on others. So you exercise. I must study scriptures, I must do sadhana, all this is desire. But it is better you desire about the divine rather than desire the world. All we have to do is shift the direction of the thoughts, of the desires. So from attachment follows the desire to possess it, and from desire alone, and when you are desiring something and I am also desiring the same, when two people are desiring the same thing, naturally there will be quarrel. Parents have left a house, two brothers are there, they both want. I know someone, they killed the brother. The one brother killed the other brother in order to hadapofy the property in Delhi. See? Quarrel. So, from desire alone ensues quarrel among men. Each one is trying to satisfy his desires, and anyone who comes in between, argument begins, fighting begins, quarrel begins. As a sequel to such desire being thwarted by someone, if anyone is becoming an obstacle in satisfying my desire, he becomes the enemy. Then you have bitterness, resentment, hatred towards that person. And you want, and depending upon the intensity of that desire, directly proportional to that is the avenue that one will take to remove that obstacle from the way. See? Then in the next verse, Kuler durvishaha krodha tamastamanu tamasagrasyate punsaha chetana vyapinidrutam. From quarrel proceeds anger, little bit of argument, little bit of discussion, little bit of trying to explain, hey, please get out of my way, I want the next position that is available in the department. Please get out of the way, I am in love with that girl or that boy. Get out of the way, don't look at her. I have already given my heart. All I have to do is just get married, that's all. You get out of the way. Don't even think about it. How dare you speak like that about my going to be wife or husband? Fighting begins. Quarrel begins. Anger wells up. Because you have created relationship with that person. Few weeks ago, till you had not decided to get married to that person, you were also joking the same way. But now, because now that person is going to be your partner, and if anyone else says, oh yeah, kaam tamam. From quarrel proceeds anger, and uncontrolled anger, depending upon how deep that anger is, it is difficult to control, it is difficult to restrain, and it comes out like a volcano because there are expectations, and those expectations, and what are those expectations? Desire. That desire is not able to be fulfilled, that expectation is not getting fulfilled, and therefore disproportionate amount of anger, volcano erupts every now and then. From quarrel proceeds anger, which is difficult to restrain. Infatuation follows anger, and by infatuation is soon obscured man's all penetrating judgment. What is infatuation? Delusion. He is unable, it's delusion is like you got the blinkers on. You are so attached to that particular object or person that you are not able to see the situation, see the big picture. You got the blinkers on. And the whole world, wise men can come and tell you, don't do that, it is not right. Don't go after that person, or don't go after that object, or don't go after into that business. No, I will show. I have failed 100 times, but 101st time I will become successful. तुम्हारी कुंडली में लिखा ही नहीं है सक्सेसफुल होना, तो तुम क्या करोगे बिजनेस में? This is what we do with our children also. We put the blinkers on our children. Either become a doctor or become an engineer. Let them explore their life. Give them an environment where they can come to find their own purpose. But for us, it is if they become doctor, or if they become engineer, if they become successful and good income paying job, then we as parents have become successful. And in that equation, nowhere peace of mind does not come in that equation. See, so many kids, nobody has taught them what is peace of mind. They are only taught you have to pursue this career, you have to pursue that career. I think this career will give you. So now, when you come to year 10, 11 and 12, you choose such subjects that you got. If you don't pass this, you will get into biotechnology. If you don't pass that, you will go into bioscience. If you don't pass that, you will get into something else. You give yourself so many options, and it is not wrong. But to put that pressure, because the parents are also thinking with the blinkers on. They are not thinking as a human being. They are not thinking as a. They are not witnessing how the mind has become so fixated on getting a particular result from their children, or from their partners, or from their employees, or from their friends. See? This is the delusion. And what does it lead to? It leads to lack of discrimination. When we become so fixated on certain ideas, we get so fixated on certain roles or dispositions, then we lose the sense of what is right and what is wrong. My way or the highway. Who's the father here? Who's the parent here? Who's paying the bills for your school here? Who's buying the clothes for you here? Same thing happens with family also. If wife is at home, husband is on the boss. I bring the money, I do this. She is also taking care of everything. In the society, just like in the house, everyone must be equal and respected. Same way in the society also, everyone is equal and respected. Each one is required. You can't only have trees. You need seeds also. You need grass also. You need fruits also. So, from infatuation or delusion, the intellect, the all-penetrating intellect, it becomes clouded. Delusion clouds the intellect, and the intellect is unable to think what is good, what is right and what is wrong. Not good and bad. What is right and what is wrong. Because our life is, whatever life we are living right now, it is based on our convictions. Man is what his convictions are. You are a summum bonum of all the convictions that you have harbored in this life from childhood till now. Maybe there are some default settings from past life, if you want to accept stock in that manner, but you don't know which one they are. But you know that this is your conviction, this is your conviction, and that's what is giving you a particular swabhav, a particular way of approach that is making your unique, that is your uniqueness. And then we get fixated in it. I am like that. Change your convictions. Right now, if your conviction is I am in this world and I don't know if there is God, or I don't know, I am going after this world, I have to become successful. Do all that, but don't forget, all this is created by someone, some great, that divine principle. And I must not fall into this trap of these 2-3 verses that are given here now. That when I get interested in a particular object or person, then I get attached to that object or person. When I get attached to an object or person, then I desire that object or person. If anyone comes in between my desired object or person, I become angry with that object or with that person, or that situation, or that experience, or that whatever comes in between. Even if it is the weather, I will get angry with the weather. If right now your desire is to listen to satsang and say the electricity goes away, or your the speaker or the microphone doesn't work, the speaker doesn't work on your laptop, you will get frustrated after some time. And when we become overly angry, in the heat of that anger, we forget what is, the delusion takes over, our intellect gets clouded, and when the intellect gets clouded, as if there is a veil over the intellect, it stops discriminating, it stops realizing what is right and wrong in that particular situation. This is the ladder of fall given in the 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Excuse me. Then the next one he says in the 21st verse, Taya virahita sadho jantu shunyaya kalpate tatosya sarvartha swartha vibhramsho murchitasya mrutasya cha. Deprived of judgment, that means deprived of not knowing what is right and wrong, because lack of discrimination due to delusion. Deprived of judgment, O good one, a living being is as good as a non-entity. The very purpose of life, excuse me, the very purpose of life of such an almost unconscious and dead man is consequently defeated. So, are we unconsciously living? Are you unconsciously living or consciously living? I am asking a question. I'll ask, 19 people are listening. I've got patience to listen to every 19. Only consciously living. What do you mean by consciously living? Huh? Okay. Someone enlighten that particular, if it is someone else, tell. Are you consciously or unconsciously living?
We try to live unconsciously, sometimes that is deviated.
So what my question is, okay, if you are now understood consciously and unconsciously, what does it mean to live consciously? That is my question.
Full of awareness and with the
full of you are
Lord in the mind.
No, Narayan also said full of awareness. Awareness of what?
Awareness of everything and thoughts and
Awareness of the divine in our heart. Then awareness
right,
is functioning.
divine in our heart.
Ah,
That is
okay.
what I tried, but that word
It's okay, okay, don't worry. So, awareness of the Lord in our heart and how that Lord is expressing as the entire world. This is called awareness. But if you are saying I am living consciously, living consciously being living alertly. Living alertly means someone should not trick me, someone should not manipulate me, I drive also alertly. But when I am driving with consciously, I am driving the car, alertly I am driving the car, where is my attention? It's on the road, it's on the other traffic, so that I can negotiate through traffic. Where does the strength to negotiate the traffic come? When we are not influenced by the traffic, when we have confidence, isn't it? So, there, your confidence is that you are able to drive well, you have never had an accident, you don't have any demerit points. But when it comes to a total life, what is that power? What is that qualification that you have? Has someone given you a certificate? No. Do you have to pay every year $900 for car registration license? No. So, who is going to say that you are qualified or not qualified to go through life? See? So, when we say we are conscious of the world and remain unaffected by the world, then you are consciously living. But if we are living in default settings, when we are living in default settings, what is default setting? Every Ekadashi we do what you call upvas. We do upvas. Every Ekadashi, instead of remembering the Lord, we think about the sabudana khichdi. Huh? But by default, we do the pujas, we do the pradosham, we do the Ram Navami and the various festivals, all happening default. It's all outward show. Has the Ram come in our heart? Has the Krishna come? Oh, but we do the puja so that he comes in front. But it is default. But it is default. Every time you come back from work, you have certain default dispositions. You will immediately demand a tea, or you will immediately go and wash your feet and immediately behave in a particular way with your children or wife, or whatever. So many default settings are there. We are not, and then there's nothing wrong. We must live in a disciplined manner if it is disciplined way you are living. But are we conscious because of what is that common denominator? What is that power which is making this life happen? And life is not happening outside, life is happening within. I am life. So, are we conscious of that life or not? That is the question. See? Then we are living consciously. So, here he says, the very purpose of life of such an unconscious who is living the whole life is going on in default settings. He is as good as dead. When from morning till night we are thinking about how we are going to survive, when we are thinking about what do I have to do to take care of my family, we are thinking about how the children are going to grow and that I have to provide this for my children. When we continuously keep thinking that I have to have a house or investments, health, these are all default settings. This is not conscious living. conscious living is when we are conscious of that conscious principle that I am, expressing in and through every activity. Activity, manasa, vacha, kaya. Thought, word and deed. What is that power which is expressing as these three? Then we are living consciously. So we can't stop the mind from thinking. We can't stop the mouth from speaking. It will be a forced maunam. Waking and dream and sleep, we can't stop. They happen by themselves. Whole life is, whatever the interactions are happening, they are happening. But are we aware? Not of the actions. Are we aware of that principle because of whom that action is possible? Right now, are we aware of that principle because of whom speaking is possible, listening is possible, seeing is possible? Are we aware of that? Then we are consciously living. But if we are attached to the words that you are hearing, then we are unconsciously living. Yes, you are listening to Bhagavatam, so you are sattvic, we can say, or rajas moving towards sattva. But some people, they are not interested in all this. Make merry, as we told in the previous last satsang, the topic was covered. So here he says in the last verse, in the 22nd verse, Vishayabhiniveshena natmanam vedana param vriksha jivikaya jivan vyartham bhasreva yashvasan. Due to excessive attachment and longing for the pleasures of senses, he who knows neither himself nor the Supreme lives in vain, as if unconscious, like a tree, and breathes like the bellows, is as good as dead for all practical purposes. Just because the breath is going on, and just because someone is feeding you, someone has given you a job, or you are on the Centrelink or job payments, sitting there in your chair, hey, get me a glass of water, hey, make me a coffee, hey, make me pakodas, oh, what have you made for dinner today, oh, what you have made for lunch today. That is a tree. Who is a tree? Who stands in one place, can't move anywhere. Tamas. He is not even that, at least Kabandha Rakshas. He had long arms and used to capture everything and then feed himself. We are not even that. What are our arms? Long arms? Our arms have extended into our children. Hey, bring that. Hey, bring me a shawl. Hey, bring me that. Hey, bring me that cushion. This is a tree-like living. That means unconscious living. And this is all because we have become fixated in life. How did that fixation come about? We got attached to something or someone. We desire, I repeat the whole journey. We get attached to something or someone by thinking about it again and again. Then we desire that something or someone. When that desire becomes uncontrollable, then we want to become one with that particular object or person. Anyone who comes as an obstacle or stops your desire to be fulfilled, we quarrel with that person, become angry with that person. As a result, first time it may be just a little bit of displeasure, next time it becomes a little bit more displeasure, then it becomes little bit of anger, then becomes more and more and more anger, and one day your dimag phat jata hai. That means delusion has taken over. At that moment we don't know what is right and wrong. And once we don't know what is right and wrong, then And such a person then starts living life unconsciously, controlled by that desire. When we live a desire, when desires are dictating our life, we are living an unconscious life. When the Supreme is dictating our life, then we are living a conscious life. Or you can put it the other way, when the desire is for the Supreme, then you are living a conscious life. Automatically you will become alert about the, 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 the common principle, the divine principle. But when the desire is, because who is the divine principle? He is one, he is unbroken, he is continuous, he is homogeneous, he is ever existing. So it has to shift, some shift has to come within. But when that same desire is applied towards the world, then we start breaking up. Our personality starts breaking up. This is what happened to Arjuna in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Due to excessive attachment and longing. Now you find out in your life, where do you have excessive attachment, where do you have excessive longing. It does not mean that from tomorrow you stop loving your kids. It does not mean that you stop loving your wife or husband or your friends. No. Let all that go on. But shift your attention to the, instead of being, what should I say? Instead of desiring their company, you desire the company of the divine. And in that journey, whoever comes, the divine will give you the vision to see that he alone is functioning in that whoever has, whatever person or object has come in your life, how that divine alone is functioning there. And in this way, such a person is as good as dead while living. When we are not oriented towards the higher, we are as good as dead when we are living our life. When we are living only for that which has only temporary existence in this creation. Okay, another way I am putting it. When we live only for that which has only temporary existence in this creation, whether it be parents, whether it be your partners, whether it be children, whether it be house, whether it be car, whether it be anything that you interact with, we are as good as dead. So again, this is being told not to condemn us. It is the Bhagavatam here. Bhagwan is showing a mirror to our face, that this is, if you are in this scheme of life, time to change. Because who is going to tell us where we are going wrong? We are having the blinkers on. Someone has to come. And if we have faith in the Lord, if we have faith in Bhagavatam, if we have faith in the words of Bhagavan Shri Krishna, then only one word needs to hit us and things will change. If we are available. Otherwise, this also, as a default, we listen and we wait for the next week for the next default to happen. So listen, continuously apply it on yourself, not anyone else. It is to be applied on ourselves. Continuing, let's read these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's read till 30th verse. Falashrutiriyam nurnam na shreyo rochanam param shreyo vivakshaya proktam yatha bhaishajya rochanam utpatyaiva hi kameshu praneshu swajaneshu cha asakta manaso martya atmanonartha hetushu natana vidusha swartham brahmyato vrujinadhvani कथं युञ्ज्यात् पुनस्तेषु तांस्तमो विशतो बुधः एवं व्यवसितं केचिद् अविज्ञाय कुबुद्धयः फलश्रुतिं कुसुमितां न वेदज्ञा वदन्ति हि कामिनः कृपणा लुब्धाः पुष्पेषु फलबुद्धयः अग्निमुग्धा धूमतान्ताः स्वं लोकं न विदन्ति ते न ते मामङ्गजानन्ति हृदिस्थं य इदं यतः उक्थशस्त्रा ह्यसुतृपो यथा निहारचक्षुषः ते मे मतमविज्ञाय परोक्षं विषयात्मकाः हिंसायां यदि रागः स्यात् यज्ञ एव न चोदना हिंसा विहाराह्या लब्धैः पशुभिः स्वसुखेच्छया यजन्ते देवता यज्ञैः पितृभूतपतीन् खलाः. So in the 23rd verse he says, having declared that those who are caught up in the extreme and excessive attachment and longing, they are as good as dead. You know, the other day one person told me, I just out of the blue, Swamiji, how are you? I'm good. Now I remember she had just become a grandmother. I said, oh, so how's the grandmother? First grandchild in her she had. She says, Swamiji, you don't know. I said, yeah, I don't know. Tell me what. She says, every night I come back from work and something catches me from inside. I feel an emptiness in my stomach and my heart, and I get pulled to my grandchild every evening after I come back from work. I'm so tired, I'm exhausted. In 2 minutes I finish my food, whatever is available, I want to run to that grandchild. Intense longing. And that same grandchild, like one person, in Melbourne only, someone's parents were coming. Whenever they used to go to Karnataka, the grandparents used to say, oh my darling, and they used to bring presents because the grandkids have come only for 2-3 weeks or 4 weeks, and then they are going to go away, and all the presents and spoil them. And the parents thought, oh, I think it's time that we bring our parents to Melbourne, and they brought the parents to Melbourne. And within 15-20 days, all that love which the grandchildren have for the grandparents vanished into thin air, because grandparents are Indian style. Don't do this, don't do that. For them, house is our house. You don't have to take permission to go into any room. And one day, the grandfather went into the kid's room, and the only 10-11-year-old kid screamed back at the grandfather, how dare you come into my room without knocking? See the samskaras? How dare you? Don't I have any privacy here? And that kid walked out of the house. Lucky that kid came to me, didn't go anywhere else. Walked 3-4 kilometers. So what longing? I can't live without my grandchild. Oh, this and whole day. That same grandchild is going to throw you out. Don't come and trouble me. That same children are going to say, enough. Don't interfere in my life. I am grown up now. That same couple who fell in love, got married, start living together. So many cases here. Then the wife takes out a restrictive order that the husband should not come 100 feet perimeter near her. Because where did that love go? What happened to that love? Then that love was not unconditional. That was infatuation. That was attachment. Otherwise, these cases will not happen. Look around and see that we are not falling into that trap. That is important. That we must not fall into that trap. We have Bhagavad here, Sri Krishna himself guiding us. He is showing where we are trapped, if we are. And I'm sure we are all somewhere or the other trapped in these default settings. Recognize. All you have to do is recognize. And shift the attention towards the divine principle. And that divine principle is not in the temple, it's not in the books, it's not anywhere. And yet it is everywhere. But accessibility is within us as this life. He will give us the more we are aware of this principle within us, He will give us the vision that He alone is everywhere outside also. फलश्रुतिरियं नृणां न श्रेयो रोचनं परं श्रेयो विवक्षया प्रोक्तं यथा भैषज्य रोचनम्. Such a promise of reward in the shape of heaven etc. contained in the Vedas, as for example, Swarga Kamo Yajet. One aspiring for heaven should perform sacrifices like Ashwamedha, does not point out the way to blessedness, but is put forward only in order to create in the mind of men externally inclined a taste for ritual acts and introductory to an exposition of final beatitude. Even as before, administering a dose of bitter medicine to a stubborn child, a sweet promise is made by parents just in order to prevail upon the child to take the dose. Okay? If the child is learning 1 plus 1 is equal to 2, 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, and the child is not learning, so you take out the chocolates, you say how much is this chocolate? 1 chocolate. How much is this chocolate? 1 chocolate. 1 plus 1 equal to 2. Then after some time the chocolate goes away and 1 plus 1 remains, 2 plus 2 remains. Exactly the same way. The scriptures, the Vedas, they are showing us, first they enumerate the possible downfall that you will meet if you continue living the wrong way, and in order to do that you have to correct your way. And a person who is not interested in God or anyone, then he is told you live a disciplined life, then you will get more riches. How do I do disciplined life? You do Havan Home, chant these mantras. What will happen? You can, a single pointed mind can achieve anything in this creation. Single pointed mind. Only because of the single pointed mind, Ravana could conquer the 3 worlds. Only because of single pointed mind, Ravana was about to lift the Kailash. Only because of the single pointed and complete faith in the Lord Shiva, he kept cutting his head as an offering in the Havan to the Lord. But that is the tamasic way. But the fact is that a single pointed mind can achieve anything, even greater. If your life is very nice right now, you can have it even better. Oh really? I can buy more clothes, I can travel all over the world, I can buy more property, I can live without, I want to retire by 40, is it possible? Yes, it is possible. Then what do I have to do? Okay, come, we'll show you how to do it. Make your mind single pointed. How do I make my mind single pointed? Start doing the rituals, start doing the puja, start doing the japa, start doing chanting the mantras single pointedly. And what is single pointed? when you are focused on doing the rituals without any interruption of any other thought. Then you are single pointed, then you are focused without any distraction. Then such a mind which has become focused, when it is applied on any field, it will go and achieve that. We are not saying you will go and achieve it, the mind will go and achieve it. See? Because the whole creation is in the mind only. Why? If the whole creation is in the mind, then why must I live in lack? Why must I live in penury? Why must I live with the shortage of this and shortage of this and fear of that and fear of this? No, why should I? But in that process, what happens? Oh, as he starts seeing his greater visions becoming more and more, he says, is more possible? Yes, you have to go. You can go to heavens. Where? How can I go to heavens? Then even more rituals. What will happen if I go to rituals? Oh, sorry. What will happen if I do more rituals? And as a result, oh, you will go to heaven. What will happen in heaven? Oh, you never get hungry, you never get thirsty. All your desires are satisfied instantaneously. Oh, really? Is it possible? Yeah, yeah, come. I'll show you all the 7 worlds. You can choose which one you want to go to. Bhu bhu swa ma japa jana tapa. Oh, really? Each heaven is greater than the next. Yes. Can I reach them in this lifetime? Yes. But just wishing is not enough. You have to papad belne padenge. For that you have to become single pointed. You have to do the ritual. You have to work towards it. You have to do the tapasya. Suddenly, what happens? This person who was living in this world for with attachment for possessions and relations, now suddenly he wants something greater, which is beyond his scope in this world. See? And as he starts doing that, here he says that उत्पत्त्यैव हि कामेषु प्राणेषु स्वजनेषु च आसक्तमनसो मर्त्या आत्मनोऽनर्थहेतुषु. In the 24th verse he says, indeed, mortals naturally have their mind attached to objects of desire such as wealth, cattle, etc., to their life, including their sense organs, vitality, virility, etc., as well as to their own people, progeny, wife, and so on, even though they are ultimately sources of misery, bondage to the self. All these things that are told in this 24th verse will lead to misery. You cannot hold on to them. You cannot hold on to your partner. You cannot hold on to your child. You cannot hold on to your wealth. You cannot hold on to your house. You cannot hold on to anything in this creation. The moment you have got it, it's already slipping out of your fingers. See? So this is natural. It says, indeed, mortals naturally have their mind attached to these things. Because we are born in such a society, in such a family with this type of sanskaras where everything is extrovert only. In the name of God, still activity is extrovert. See? Natan vidusha swartham brahmyato vrujinadhvani katham yunjyat punasteshu tanstamo vishato buddha. In the 25th verse he says, how could the all-knowing Vedas direct such men, blind to their real interest and yet devout, convinced about the infallibility of the Vedas, and wandering as a reward of their sacrificial performances in the path of enjoyment, the superhuman species of life, the state of gods and other heavenly beings, and then entering as a punishment for their cruelty to animals in the course of those sacrificial performances, the inanimate forms of life such as plant kingdom, once more to those enjoyments through such texts as Pushkamo Yajeta, Ayurindriya Kamo Yajeta, Putradhikamo Yajeta, one desirous of cattle, one desirous of longevity, sound organs, etc., and one desire of progeny, wife, and so on, should undertake sacrificial performances. So it is the foolish people. See, it is the foolish people, those who are still living unconsciously, who remain caught up in default positions. They get attached to the rituals also. You told them to get detached from the world, get detached from the relations and possessions. They get attached to the swarg. They get attached to the rituals. They get attached to the mantras. They get attached to the havan home. That compassionate Vedas, in which the ultimate truth is given, even though in those Vedas 70%, 75% of the Vedas are about rituals. Why? Because majority of the population is only out there trying to satisfy their desires. So they have to catch them by some hook. Every person is different, out of the 8 billion, every person is unique. Which hook will catch which one, which fish in this creation? So they have to give different ways. So it cannot be that the Vedas are propagating going to heaven. It cannot be that. Those compassionate Vedas which are talking about the truth, they cannot be owned. They have told this, but it is like a carrot to the donkey. So that the person starts coming on the path of sense control, mind control, through exercises of single pointedness, focusing, thinking of something higher. Otherwise, what they were thinking of? Only relations and possessions. Purpose of life is not only to think about that. This human birth, it says that this human birth is, he used some word here. The superhuman species of life. Among the entire species in this creation, human species is the superhuman species. Why? Because it can discriminate. It is the only species which has the possibility of realizing its essential nature, its source. No other species has this opportunity. And having gained this human birth, still we are caught up and lost in the world, in the desires, in the default way of living. How much disservice we can do. But here, in the 25th verse, it is talking, how could the all-knowing Vedas direct such men only to the heaven? That is not their purpose. So in short, those 24th verse, in short, it is like a carrot to the donkey. This heaven is given, just like the terrorists are given, that if you do this particular act, you will get so many in the heaven. It's a carrot. So we are also given a carrot. What will you get in the heaven? Oh, there is no hunger, there is no thirst, there is no disease, and all your desires are instantaneously satisfied. Oh my God! Wow! And where the youthful energy is there, where they want to go and conquer the world. If they are at that young age of 16, 17, 18, if they are directed towards the higher, all that energy, all that inspiration, all that nothing is impossible for a youth. Nothing is impossible. Majority of the youth. There are many who are going the wrong way. If they are given this direction, they will become successful in that angle. That's what our Gurukul system used to do. And then the nature takes over, and there are certain things that we have to work out in this life that automatically starts expressing. But our attention is on the higher. In the 26th verse he says, Evam vyavasitam kechid avijnaya kubuddhayah falashrutim kusumitam na vedajna vadantihi. Not knowing such intention of the Vedas, some misguided people, the advocates of karma or ritual act, interpret the promises contained in the Vedas of fruit in the shape of final beatitude as offering blossoms, alone in the shape of heavenly enjoyment, but not so the knowers of the real import of the Vedas, sage Vyasa and others indeed. So, those people who self proclaimed thoda sa, they have read some scriptures here and there, and they are able to perform the what do you call, the perform, chant the mantras properly, or they are able to do the pujas or the havan homas properly, without coming to know what is the purpose behind all this. Why a priest in a temple dies as a priest in a temple? Why not every priest becomes like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, a realized priest? Why? See? They are chanting mantras, they know everything by heart, but their attention, the misguided misconception is that the spiritual life is only to go to heaven. So karma kanda, the japa, the puja, the homam, the duties have to be done only to go to heaven. If you make one mistake, you will not go to heaven, you will go to hell. This is not the purpose of scriptures. When we, again, the Vedas, no. Veda's purpose is to bring you to your essential nature, to bring you to allow to reformat the mind, to reformat the intellect, so that it merges into its own source and gives up the imagination. Gives up the imagination of I and mine. See? And this merging is happening. Every night we forget everything and merge into sleep. The Vedas are saying, allow that to happen consciously, not unconsciously. If it is unconscious, it is called sleep. When it is conscious, then there you are. Then you have lived for what you were born. Then you are we are fulfilling our purpose of, and they have made good this opportunity that has been given to us as the human being. So, joys of the heaven is not the purpose of the Vedas. See? Final beatitude, self-realization is the goal of the Vedas. Then in the 27th verse, Kamina krupana lubdhaha pushpeshu phala buddhayaha agni mugdha dhoomatantaha swam lokam na vidanti te. Men seeking pleasures of sense and therefore ever miserable, grasping, mistaking the enjoyments of heaven, which are like so many flowers, as the supreme fruit of human endeavor, confounded by their excessive attachment to ritual acts, in which the sacred fire plays a prominent part, and finding the path of smoke at the end of their life, are not able to realize their own self. As long as we outsource our happiness, first we were outsourcing it to family and possessions, relations and possessions in the world. Then somehow we came across satsang. Then we have detached from that, and now we have outsourced it to Swarga, heaven. And depending upon our focused attention, there are 7 heavens, the 7 lokas, all the way to Brahma Lok. So here in sarcasm, Bhagwan is saying that they invoke the Agni, and through the smoke of the fire they smoke their whole life only by going after fulfilling their wishes. See, they want to do Havan. See, learn from the stories. Dashrath Maharaj did Havan to get children. How did he die? Did he die a happy man? Did he die a realized man? No, he died a miserable person. Why? Because he died out of his extreme attachment to Sri Ram. And when Sri Ram was sent to the forest, he could not bear. And he was the one, Dashrath Maharaj as himself, helped Indra to protect heaven. Yet the only place he could end up was heaven because of his attachment to his son. Even if he is the what you call, even if he is God himself. And we have become more intelligent than all those people. We are smarter than them. We are not even king of our own house. Dasharatha was king of Ayodhya. He was that powerful. हमारी तो घर में भी नहीं चलती. Finding the path of smoke at the end of their life, are not able to realize the self. So they smoke their life away by doing rituals, by desiring heaven, by following the path of karma. They smoke their life away, and they are unable to do these rituals as the body gets old, and then the guilt sets in, fear sets in, and that is the smoke that we are talking about. Then what are the rituals done for? What is the japa done for? What is the puja done for? For what? For purification of our mind. All acts, all karma is done, if done in the right manner as an offering to the divine. The result, we are not doing, Bhagwan, I am doing this havan, please purify my mind. Don't have that wish. You do the ritual in love for the divinity for whom you are doing it. Be 100% available to that Agni. That Agni will burn away the unwanted desires from your mind. But for that, that intention is necessary. But we do the fire sacrifice because we want some result. Do it without result. Some result will come. And what will the result? Mind purified. Purified mind is expanded mind. Then it becomes available to even higher things. Ultimately the self. 28th verse. Nate mamanga jananti hridistham ya idam yataha ukta shastra hyasutaptrupo yatha nihara chakshushaha. With ritual acts as the only theme of their talks and intent on gratifying their flesh, they are unable to know me, though present in their heart, me, who am this universe and from whom this universe has sprung up, any more than those whose eyes are bedimmed by mist are able to recognize even that which is close at hand, O dear Uddhava. See? This point, we have said it so many times. Mannatha Jagannatha Madguru Shri Jagadguruhu Madatma Sarva Bhutatma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mannatha Jagannatha. My God is the God of the whole universe. Is the whole universe. Mad Guru, my Guru is the infinite Guru. Mad Atma, the self that I am, is the infinite self. We chant by rote, without awareness, without alertness as to what it is indicating. Here Bhagavan says, with ritual acts, the only theme of their talk. On one hand, they are living a sensuous life. On one hand, they are living a life of extreme longing and attachment to relations and possessions. On the other hand, they do the ritual acts only so that they can get more things out of this world or for the higher world, but they are still stuck in the world. Yet they are unable to know me. Bhagavan is saying they are unable to know me, who is seated in their heart as the Atma. And that Atma alone is the entire universe. And here we are trying to own the universe, control the universe, so that then I am successful, then I am happy. Baba, you are the source, you are the material out of which the whole universe is created. And self is the, out of the self alone, the whole creation was created. The material also it is. And that because of which the universe is created is also it. The Nimitta Karan and Upadan Karan. The efficient cause and the material cause. Both is the Atma Tattva. Just like man is the Nimitta Karan, man himself. It's a very limited example, but just like man himself is becoming the husband, the brother, the son, exactly the same way. The water itself is becoming the wave. Water itself is becoming the tide. Water itself is becoming the tsunami. Same way, that one Paramatma who is Purnamada Purnamidam, without any gain or loss, himself is the efficient cause of this whole creation and is the material cause of this whole creation. And when we recognize that divinity as the self, then what will we run after? Because self is all pervasive. This is the purpose of the Vedas. Not Satyanarayan Puja and this puja and that puja. All that is good. Do it. But yeah, our attention is not on the Satyanarayan Bhagavan. Our attention is what he can bless us with. We have gone there with a list of demands. Or our attention is on the Satyanarayan Prasad. See? Our attention is not on the Satyanarayan Bhagavan. So just as a person walking around, if I am walking around like this and there is mist, the fog comes out and my vision becomes very limited. Same way, when the desires start erupting in my mind, my vision becomes limited. I am unable to see the expanse. I am unable to be the expanse. Because I have accepted that I am the body, I am the mind, I am these convictions, I am born, etc. etc. In the 29th verse, Te me matama vijnaya paroksham vishayatmakaha himsayam yadi ragasyad yajna eva na chodana. Not knowing my opinion, which is not quite apparent and which is to the effect that if one has a passion for destruction of life, it should be restricted to sacrificial performances only, and that there is no scriptural ordinance making it obligatory on us. Those wicked men indulging in destruction of life as a pastime and with their mind set on the pleasures of sense worship, the god as well as the mains and the rulers of evil spirits through sacrificial performance carried on by means of animals slaughtered with the desire for gratifying themselves. See? So who are these? These both the himsa vihara hyalabdaihi pashubhi swasukha sukhechaya yajante devata yajnaihi pitru bhuta patin khalaha. We are so obsessed that we must remember our ancestors, we must do the Shraddha, we must do it. But more than that, we must remember the Lord, because of whom your ancestors came. You must remember that divinity, because of whom all the gods in the heavens are. You must remember that divinity, because of whom the space, air, fire, water, earth, and in the end, all these aushadhi, trees, plants, rivers, mountains, this fantastic life that we have, including this body, breath, mind, intellect. Without that divine principle, all this would not have been possible. But we forget Him. And instead, we are only living at the flesh level. Only at the flesh level. Trying to satisfy our desires. And here Bhagavan says, not knowing. Te me matama avijnaya. Not knowing why I have given the Vedas. And in the Vedas, why I have given 75% of the Vedas to be ritualistic acts, 20% of the Vedas to be the Upasana, and only 5% to be Upanishads. Some stupid fools, they feel that because Upanishads are only 5%, they are unimportant in the Vedas. Upasana is only 20%, so that is secondary. Then what is primary in the Vedas? 75%. What is that? Ritualistic acts. And who are these people? Who are attached, who are living as the body on everybody, who take this world to be real, who want to satisfy their desires more and more and more and more. These are the people. And they can never they do not come to know the opinion of the Lord. And Lord is saying, for our benefit is saying, that in my opinion, this is not the purpose. So those people who do not not know my opinion, what do? Because Bhagavan nowhere says clearly, he keeps giving you different. You have to think, you have to discriminate. Only a person with discrimination will come to know what is the secret of the scriptures. Only one with the. Just because Ravana comes, Jarasandha, etc., Hiranyakashipu, because they were smart, they were intelligent, they studied the scriptures, they were great, single pointed mind, they got great siddhis from Brahmaji, but their purpose was only one, to become the master of the world. It was not to merge into the divine. And therefore, they had to be removed from this creation. If we are desiring something in this creation which enhances our status, which enhances our position, which enhances our control and power, you will also be removed from this creation. How more explicitly we can say, or Bhagavan can say here? So those people who love destroying, love killing, love putting other people down, it's happening in so many countries. You see in Africa, in some Asian countries. No respect for life. Nor for human beings, nor for animals. Eat whatever is available, moving, put it into the stomach. If one has a passion for destruction of life, if that is your bent of mind, such a person must do the sacrificial performance only. So for them, those type paths are given only, and there is no scriptural ordinance making it obligatory on us. So there is nobody telling us that you must follow the Vedic way of life. We are not here to convert anyone, like many other religions. Sanatan Dharma, the Vedic Dharma, it doesn't convert anyone. Everyone becomes a Sanatana Dharmi by choice. Everyone is being given a free choice. And what degree you want to follow it, that is also given to you. And if you really want to know, that is also possible. For that, then you need a teacher, you need a guide. See? So those who are hell bent on destruction, for them sacrificial performances they should continue to perform. Ritualistic acts they must perform, and that is also not obligatory. All that will happen is that instead of indiscriminate killing, they will kill only for the sacrifice. See, that bloodlust will get abated. Those wicked men indulging in destruction of life as a pastime and with their mind set on the pleasures of sense worship the gods as well as the manes and the rulers of evil spirits through sacrificial performances carried on by means of animals slaughtered with the desire of gratifying themselves. Thank God we are not in that way. See? Continuing, what's the time? Chalo. 6:30, 7:30, 8:30. Continue करना है, बंद करना है. Last time I took too much time. You decide. Should I continue another 4 verses or stop? I'm asking. नारायण सो गया क्या? कंटिन्यू 4 more verses के काफ़ी है, काफ़ी है, ठीक है, एंजॉय। नहीं काफ़ी हो गया, ओवरलोड हो जाता है, क्योंकि लास्ट वीक आई डिड सो मच, माय गॉड, आई डिडंट रियलाइज द टाइम व्हेन आई वाज uploading. I realized it was 2 hours 20 minutes or something. So now we'll conclude here and we'll do this bit next time. Okay, so Bhagwat is giving us a wake up call. Wakey wakey, good morning, divinity calling. Divinity calling, knock knock. So all these ideas that were presented is to see where we are going wrong, man. And we can't say that we are absolutely right. Every one of us is committing some or the other wrong. Somewhere we have some default settings, somewhere we are extroverted in our approach, somewhere we are having wishes to be fulfilled when we are remembering the divine. Correct. Fine tune, fine tune, fine tune, fine tune, so that complete integration happens and we are able to merge in the divine. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.